Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us. Happy New Year to you. We made it through Christmas. For some of you, it was a nice, calm, relaxing holiday. For others, there was an awful lot going on. Maybe 3 days of parties. Maybe the last party had more than 40 people at it. I don't know who that would be. I've heard. But we made it through Christmas. Hallelujah. Now we're looking at the new year, and Happy New Year to you. I did not get out. I kept telling you I was going to get back out. I was going to get back out and shoot a big doe with my dart and crossbow, and I just never did make it out. And shame on me. That's my fault. Nobody else to blame for it except me. I just got tied up on work-related projects, and I got to be honest with you, I am not so in love with deer hunting that I'm going to put aside my work that I need to get done, although in my case, I could justify it as being work. If it was deer hunting, if it was bear hunting or if it was turkey hunting, boom, I wouldn't give it a second thought. I would be out there every day of the season until I got the job done. Deer hunting, I'm not one of those people who lives, breathes, and dreams deer hunting. And I know there are a lot of people who do. And for those of you who are in that mindset, you are very sad now, right? Because your season is pretty much coming to a close. But hey, only 9 more months and you can get back out there. But because I never did shoot a deer this year, in fact, I haven't shot a deer in probably 10 years, maybe more. I did have several opportunities at big does early in the season, and I passed on them. And why? Why did I pass? I don't know. I honestly don't know. What do they say about hunting? Never pass on something the first day of the season that you would shoot on the last day of the season. I should know that by now. Had several opportunities at big does, and that's what I wanted to take this year. Or a great big buck, but how many of us really have opportunities at those? And I passed on them. And now the only venison in my freezer is from the generosity of my son James. And they took a bunch of deer, and he's very generous. But I got bear in the freezer. So because I didn't shoot a deer this year, one of my goals for 22 is to shoot a deer. Maybe a nice buck down in Ohio with Bill Piles. We are going back down there in October, a week later this year. Hopefully we can avoid the 90-degree weather we had this year. And maybe a nice big doe here in Michigan. Also goals for 22, shoot a Michigan bear. I have not done that yet. I've shot, I was trying to add them up the other day, 13, 14, 15 bears, none of them in Michigan. All of my bears have been in Quebec, Quebec, Ontario, and Manitoba. I've had opportunities at Michigan bears, 2 of them with Gary Morgan of Wild Game Dynasty. The first one came wandering by my blind at 10 yards, 10 minutes into my first hunt. I had waited 9 years for that hunt. I wasn't going to have it be over in 10 minutes, so I let that bear walk. Spent the better part of the next 2 weeks hunting. Did see another bear towards the end of the season, just a little too far to shoot. That was okay. 2 years ago, hunting with Johnny Bowler in the UP with my recurve. We just couldn't quite pull it off. Finally, and I'm blind. I mean, because I'm with a recurve, I'm like 10 yards from the bait. You might be able to get away with that in Ontario, but trying to do that in Michigan is a whole different ballgame. I mean, I'm sitting on that bait. There is so little room for error, but we did get one to come in toward the end of the season, but he just didn't give me a shot. Yeah, he would have been a shot with a gun, would have been a shot with a crossbow, but just not quite with a recurve. So I do want to shoot a Michigan bear. I want to shoot another Michigan turkey. Haven't shot a turkey in a couple of years because I have been, again, hunting with a recurve. I've taken a bird with a recurve before, but it is certainly a challenge. Last year, I had 2 or 3 birds I could have shot with a gun or a compound or a crossbow. But this year, since I'm going to be hunting with that dart and crossbow, I do want to shoot a Michigan turkey. As I talked about last week, my goals for 2022, I want to expand my fishing horizons. It doesn't mean I'm going to pick up a fly rod and head to the Asable. It doesn't mean I'm going to surf cast for steelhead in Lake Michigan, although those are wonderful activities. I'm just thinking in my case, I want to take that angler quest into some different parts of Saginaw Bay, into some using some different techniques, some different baits. Get away from my mindset of going out to my skinny water and trolling number 7 flicker shads 35 to 60 feet behind the boards. Just maybe something a little different. And finally, my biggest goal for 2022 is just to spend more time outdoors. And I think that's something all of us could use for a goal. As I've said before, spending more time outdoors does not mean sitting on the patio with a cigar or mowing the lawn. It means getting out in the woods or on the water. Those are my goals for 2022. Did you apply for your Pure Michigan hunt? As you are listening to the show, if not, you have missed your window of opportunity. I had several Pure Michigan applications that I put in. And I'm probably going to win. I'll just tell you that right now. I'm probably going to win the Pure Michigan hunt this year. I have no inside information. It's just a gut feeling, but I had that same gut feeling last year, and I will have that same gut feeling every year. I'm doing a live feed right now, and Linda says, does that mean you're going to start chasing walleye with crawlers? Linda, no. That's one horizon I'm not going to expand to. Normally this time of year, I would be excited and getting ready to head down to the ATA show, the Archery Trade Association National Show. I'm not going this year for a couple of reasons. The ATA in the past is where companies used to unveil their new products, their new bows. This year, there's very little new to unveil. The companies have done it online for months now. We really, I mean, what are they going to unveil? Now, some of the smaller companies, some of the blind companies, the broadhead companies, yes. So I don't think there's really that much news that's going to come out of the ATA show. The other reason, and I'll be completely honest with you, is ATA wants to charge me as a media person $600 to walk in the door and promote their show. We used to be able to do that for free. Now, it wasn't a free trip for me because I still had to get down there and pay for the hotel and stuff, so it ended up being a fairly expensive 3-4 days. But I didn't have to pay to get in the door, and they want me to pay $600 to walk into their show to promote their show. I'm not going to do it. Especially when I think the ATA show is no longer viable or sustainable. And it's probably, and I guess it's probably not real smart of me to pick a battle with an industry leader like the ATA, somebody I should be in partnership with. But I'm not going down. I'm not going down this year. And I don't feel like I'm missing much other than the opportunity to get together with people I haven't seen for a while, sit down and shake their hand and shoot the breeze. Big news about our Wednesday night live shows. I do these online every week on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, sometimes on Instagram as well. We like to do them in person in the field whenever possible. COVID has put a big monkey wrench into those plans until now. In 2022, we're going to take the Wednesday Night Lives back on the road 4 times at least this year. We're going to go to the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch, Michigan. The first Wednesday in March, the first Wednesday in June, the first Wednesday in September, and the first Wednesday in December. We'll be doing the shows live from the Lumberjack Restaurant, the Forward Corporation Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. If Chef Dave Minar can get his staffing situation figured out, we will also try to do one back at Oscar and Joey's as well. I love these events. People who have been there with us love them as well. It's a chance to get together, have a good meal, win some prizes. More details on that as they become available. Promo codes. PrimalTreeStands.com, promo code Avery, MichiganBrand.net, promo code Mike21, MUCC.org, promo code Mike, all caps. And as you're listening to this show, if you didn't put into VersaSkins.com and use that promo code, you missed the window of opportunity there. But you can still buy VersaSkins products online, VersaSkins.com. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we're going to continue on this theme of the ATA show and what it means to the average archer with Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, then Nick Buja of the Michigan Wildlife Council, and much more coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. You can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM. And in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946. That means they just celebrated their 75th anniversary. The company started when Roland Boning invented Ferrule-Tite to glue broadheads to what at the time were wooden arrow shafts. These days, Boning continues to come up with new products, new ways to manufacture those products. They continue to innovate, come up with new products for target archers and bow hunters as like. If you are a shooter, there's a good chance you use Boning products somewhere in your setup. Check them out online at boning.com. That's BOHNING, boning.com. While you're online, please head over to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We're just talking to Marie Hickerson, my web person. We're gonna tweak that here shortly after the first of the year. So head on over there. And then also, please head on over to Bowhunter Planet. Bowhunterplanet.com, the go-to source online for all things archery, all things bow hunting, all things product reviews. Dave Thomas is the guy behind Bowhunter Planet, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Dave, welcome back.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing good. The season wrapped up, and I never did get back out to take advantage of that late season, try to put down a big doe. How did your year go, Dave?
My year did not go very well with hunting, but a lot of our friends did. Our land that we hunt on just didn't pan out correctly this year. Normally we see very large deer. It's out in Berry County, but they did some changes to the land. We don't own it; we lease it. And when they did that, it ended up. Actually all the big bucks were gone and all these little deer came through, and it was quite the interesting flip flop from what we normally see, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
At the end of the world. Exactly. Now, Berry County, when you said you didn't see deer, the first thing I thought of was that in that zone that got hit by EHD?
I don't remember because I didn't hear much about it. So
okay.
I feel like it did a couple of years ago, but I don't know if that was this year or not. To be honest, since we didn't see many deer, we weren't there a lot. We went there a couple of weeks, and that was
it. Yeah. I don't care how much you love to hunt deer. You can only sit in a tree stand or in a ground blind for so long and not see an animal and want to keep coming back.
Yeah, true that.
I was saying earlier in the show that normally, Dave, this time of year, I'm all geeked and excited because I plan on heading down to the ATA show, the Archery Trade Association show. I'm not going this year, and I was actually a little surprised to hear you guys aren't going either.
Yeah, Mike, it's one of those things. I love the ATA. I think it's a great organization. I think what they're doing is important to the industry. I think that the problem with what they do today with the trade show is just that it's going to be risky from here on out. And I think you're going to find that trade shows will start to dwindle down. People want to go to them, but you got to remember it's never really been a consumer show anyway. Mm-hmm. So really, it's just the industry going to buy buyers and sellers, at one spot, which can be done in array of ways. So I think that's part of the issue, and with COVID and what's happened, and even in Michigan right now, it's another hot year for it. So I don't see it really going upward. I only see it keep going downward. And so for us not to go is not really because of COVID necessarily. It's because of who was going. So for us, when we go to a show like that, we want to cover at least 90% of the industry. When I say that, I mean Matthews, Hoyt, Darden, all the brands. But in this case, the only couple of bow companies who are going, to my knowledge, still today, I think it's PSC, Bear, and 10 Point. And I think G5 is going. I'm not positive, but those are the only ones going. And now, if you imagine that against losing, Hoyt, Matthews, Bowtech, Diamond, Excalibur, I mean, that's a lot not going. And that's just in my one hand. That's not including, Outdoor Group, who has 5 or 6 brands who aren't going, right, including Elite, Slick Trick. And you can keep going. So that's the bigger thing, right? When you look at these brands, they all own, it's all monopolized nowadays. So they all own 5 or 6 or 7 brands. GSM owns like 40. So if they're not going, that really means that whole show, if you're looking at 100%, it's like 25% is going. So it doesn't become logical at that point for us to go and spend hotel money, food money, and all that to do it just to cover a couple brands.
Yeah, it was same for me. And then when they wanted to charge a media guy $600 to walk in the door to promote their show, I said, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah,
no, understood. Yep. And I also think that the show has changed a lot over the years that I've seen, and obviously you've seen. But one of the things that, it's been cool that they have like a media concept you could go, and it's a little bit exciting. But at the same time, that's kind of gone away from what I think it was principally put on, started by, which was, to sell something to a buyer. So a pro shop would go there, do their purchase because they could get everything in one room and see it in that's what I think it was supposed to be. Then it got a little crazy with TV shows and media and all this stuff. And that was, I get it, because they wanted to make it bigger and bigger. But at the same time, I think it might have went the opposite direction where it got too big and then they, became too hard to manage.
Well, one of the reasons these companies can become so effective at releasing their product ahead of time and promoting their product online is guys like you, Dave Thomas, at Bowhunter Planet. I mean, you get this stuff in your hands well ahead of when the show would have been in the past, and you're helping to get the word out about the new gear sometimes, September, October even.
Yeah, it's been that part of it's interesting to me, Mike, because I never once thought I'd be an influencer in the archery industry. I never thought that when I started this. It wasn't what I was trying to do. But now we've become that, and so what's happened now is we're involved in it's very interesting because I've never seen this part of the business before, but we get invited to these media summits that happen months before bow launches. And they're basically, you sign an NDA and then you go into a Zoom call and there's all these media people in the industry with you watching the bow manufacturer tell you about what they're launching. So it's really interesting to see that and to be a part of it. I love it. I think it's really cool. And I love helping these companies to try to better themselves and make a better bow each year. And it's really fun because I can do it across all the brands, not just one or two. That's what I think is cool about it, is just being a part of it with all of them, and seeing what they're all doing and knowing that they trust us to do that. It's a great feeling.
Well, and that is something very cool, and you should be proud of that. In the new products that you've looked at for 2022, what gets you excited? What do you think archers are going to be really interested in seeing?
I think it's a lot to do with, I think when you look at, first off, I'll throw this out there. And I'm only throwing this out there because it is exciting because it breaks the barrier. Where will it go from there? I don't know. And that is the 10-point Nitro 505. So this bow has now overcome the Raven 500. And now it's with 10-point. and the speed I'm talking here. And now we're at 505, which is not really getting 505. It's getting like 510, 520. So they just put it at 505, I think, is just to have like a lock number. But like, everything I've seen, all the testing I've seen, everything we've done, it's been over that. So I do trust that 10 Point's a brand that can bring quality and can bring to the table, a product that can handle it. They put it through regular, huge testing. And I know they would never put out a bow that's not going to survive. So I trust that it will survive. I just think like, wow, people are going to go crazy for that. Like people, for some reason, have the speed fetish that they really want speed. And I've never been a speed person, but it's just what people want. I don't know.
And that bow comes in at least 3 configurations. Now, if you want to go high end and put one of those range finding digital scopes on there, you can spend $4,000 on them, but you can get it the bottom end for a lot less than that, I think.
Yeah. I think it's around 3,000, which I know sounds like a lot, but when people look at guns and stuff like that, the price tags go up there as well. And if it's something you really want, you're going to spend the money for it. It's like golf. You're going to buy the best golf club. Tennis, you're going to buy the best tennis racket. So it's just what you feel is the best and what you want. Crossbows range from $300 all the way up to $4,000. So if you're just going hunting a couple of times, you definitely don't need a very high-end bow. It's not a big deal. But if it's something you really want it, because you want that brand, you want the best of the best, you're gonna pay it. But those range-finding scopes are absolutely incredible. And I want to point out that we're doing some videos on those right now. We just got the Burris Oracle 2 in. This one's for the compound, but I just got that one in. And we are getting the Garmin Zero sight in as well to go. So we're going to do head-to-head testing between both. And there is a giant price tag between them. I want to say the Garmin's a lot more money. But the Garmin uses a different technology, and I think it's important to talk about that when we get into it fully in my video I end up doing coming up. Just because, it's not the same tech, right? There's 2 different techs happening. One's a military-grade tech and one is not. So there is going to be a price difference, right? I mean, it's not going to be the same. But do they do the same thing? Yes. At the end of the day.
And what is that those things do? You point it at a critter and they tell you what the distance is, and then what?
Correct. So imagine you have a bow sight on a compound bow, and you have there's one pin at the top. It's not a pin, it's like a line, but let's just imagine it's a pin at the top, and it's got like a mark. And you take that mark and you put it on the critter, and then you let go, and it'll actually adjust and put the pin on that line where it needs to be. So it's a built-in rangefinder that automatically adjusts to the pin that should be used for that range. It's unbelievable. It's literally unbelievable. Probably one of the best things to happen, because I understand people might think like, oh, that's cheating, or that's this, that, and this, and that's fine. Everybody's got their opinion, and everybody's opinion is welcome to these things. But the thing is that we have to look at what's ethical for an animal. And if we have a product that can make precision better using mathematics and whatever it is, then, in my opinion, we should take advantage of that, because that gives the critter a better chance that human error is going to be, less likely. Because think about it, when you go to range find a deer, I've done this before. So I've ranged a deer. It says 40 yards. I look down, put my release on, pull back, fire. Oh, well, that deer moved 6 more yards in that little space of time that I went down to look at, put my release on. So things like that, I think, would, cause this product to be worth a lot in my mind.
We're talking with Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com. Dave, can you stick around a few more minutes?
Yeah, that'd be great, Mike.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Bowhunterplanet.com is the website. You can also find them on, everywhere. I mean, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, even, you name it. Dave Thomas and the guys at Bowhunter Planet have come up with a way to get the word out. And as he said, he is a reluctant social media influencer, meaning he didn't go out to seek that type of notoriety, but because the guys do such a good job, companies are now coming to them. And I should mention that Bowhunter Planet is a Michigan-based company, a Michigan-based group of people, and I love that. So we'll continue our conversation. We'll wrap up our conversation with Dave Thomas of bowhunterplanet.com. Then after that, we'll wrap up the hour with Nick Bougia of the Michigan Wildlife Council, talking about license sales in Michigan. They didn't tank as some people had predicted they would this year. In fact, I'll let Nick explain at the end of the hour, coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. hear the Outdoor Magazine show on 32 AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan, including 105.7 WZTK in Alpena. You can hear us in Battle Creek on 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Tawas on two stations, WIOS 1480 AM and 106.9 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. You know I love that. For more info, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Talking now with Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet. Bowhunterplanet.com is the website. Dave, you mentioned something before the break I want to follow up on. And that is the fact that we owe something to the game that we are pursuing. My personal experience here is I had hunted with a recurve for the previous 2 years, and I loved it. Took a great amount of satisfaction in it, but honestly, toward the end, I didn't have the confidence in that tool that I needed to make a quick, clean, humane killing shot. So I actually jumped all the way to a crossbow. And now when I'm sitting in the woods, even though I haven't let an arrow fly this fall, I know that if I did, I would have the best possible chance of making that quick, clean, humane killing shot. And that does create an interesting discussion in the bow hunting world, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, people, they often forget that part for some reason. They think like the word cheating comes up and, oh, it's not true archery. It's not a bow. It's not this, even if you're talking about crossbow. And, when we see it all the time, believe me, all the time. And I really hate it because I really don't like the infighting within the industry about things like a crossbow or to a bow or you don't really hear the trad to compound anymore that you used to because it's been so many years. But, in my opinion, the crossbow is the same thing. It's like, look, the crossbow's been used since, since wars back in Knights and Kings and way past that, the crossbow's been around for probably 1,000 years. It's a long time. It's not like we're talking about a new thing or something that's different, but it is a great tool. And, for the animal and to get, a better shot, if you're not confident with a compound bow, if you're not great with it, it still gets people outdoors. And that's the number one. That, and, obviously doing the right thing for the animal, giving them the best chance that you're going to, do it the right way and not have to wound them or hurt them or, So I think it's really important that people look at it that way.
Did that crossbow that came out earlier in the year that provided back-to-back shots, did that ever get any traction? I didn't hear too much after that, after the unveiling.
I think it got some traction, but the problem was people looked at it more as like, a novelty or something, right? Like something you're not going to necessarily buy. You'll buy something else, but it's cool to look at. But the truth is I actually hunted with it this year, and I felt extremely confident with it. And I'll tell you this, I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I'm not making this up. I was target shooting with that bow, and I took the first shot, and it's two triggers. So remember, it's not, one trigger shoots two bolts. I shot the first bolt, and I aimed, and I shot the second bolt, and I had a true Robin Hood, which I've never done with a crossbow. So it just goes to show you, but having that ability to take those two shots are pretty important with a crossbow, especially. Because, if you do make a shot, if you do have a chance for a second shot, why would you not take it? So if you shoot the deer once, it runs out 20 yards, it's standing there, you can shoot. Why would you not? So in my opinion, it's a great option. But, people, I don't know. People are buying it, I'm sure, but I just don't know how many. I haven't heard the numbers or anything like that.
What about vertical bows, compounds? What should we be looking for this year?
Yeah, so in the compound market, Bear launched a whole bunch of new bows, which I was really happy and proud of them for doing. They always, they do such a good job of going across the markets. So going from a very low price all the way to a very high price. And when I say high price for Bear, it's usually $9.99. So it's not even into that $1,200 mark we see Matthews and Bowtech. So Bear's done a great job of, fitting the need for the average consumer and having a lot of options. The refined EKO is a really nice shooting bow. They did an Alaskan, which is a really nice bow. Resurgence package deal, which is another just absolutely incredible bow, very smooth. So I love the Bear line this year. They did a great job. At the little bit higher price point, I would say it was really cool to see Bowtech launch the CP28, which is a direct competitor with the Matthews short axle bow, so a 28-inch axle. Matthews has been known to be the small axle company with 27, 28, 29, and 30, I believe, over the years, having all those covered with their V3, V3X, and their VXR. So it's just nice to see a competitor go head-to-head, especially those guys are both really big, bow brands. Some of the tech that we saw, though, is Matthews did a sight bar that you could put the sight right through the center of the riser, which is pretty cool. It's never been done before. We're seeing integrated rests now on most of the bow brands. Hoyt, I think QAD owns the patent, but it's like Hoyt, Matthews, and Bowtech all now have the ability to do like a Picatinny attachment for their rests, which is really cool to see. So stuff like that. Just a lot of different things happening there, but the tech's only go so far. So from what I've seen, as far as something that's really new and fresh and ground up, the CP28 Bowtech would be the newest platform I think that we've seen, because it's a whole new riser.
Dave, always a pleasure. I'll send people to your website, bowhunterplanet.com. They can find you on social media and YouTube as well and learn more about all these different products as you guys continue to do top-end product reviews. Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com. He's not going down to the ATA. I'm not going down to the ATA show. Much of the industry isn't going down to the ATA show because unless you're looking to fill your sporting goods shop, there's really no reason to go there anymore. But for that, I'm feeling bad about these guys, because where are they going to go now for this one-stop shop other than maybe online, and there you can't touch the product. Nick Bougia coming up. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Carroll on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. Plus, you can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. On the Ground is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website. It's mucc.org. That's mucc.org. If you use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, you can save 25% on your MUCC membership, either signing up for the first time or your renewal. mucc.org, promo code Mike, all caps. Want to check in now with a friend of ours, Nick Bougia of the Michigan Wildlife Council, also the Congressional Sportsman's Foundation. Nick, I saw a news release that you put out here this last week or so about hunter license sales, hunter numbers, and you put a positive spin on that. Tell me more.
Yeah, so, during the pandemic in 2020, we saw a pretty big increase in the sale of hunting and fishing licenses, which was great, but everyone was kind of wondering would that trend continue or what would it look like moving forward? So those numbers have leveled off a little bit. 2021's numbers weren't as high as 2020, but they were certainly a lot higher than 2019 before the pandemic. So it looks like we were able to kind of either retain or recruit more sportsmen and women into the outdoors, and I think that's a pretty positive thing. Hopefully we can continue that trend.
Because the previous trend was to see a downward number of hunting licenses sold, not just here in Michigan, but across the country for many years now.
Yeah, exactly.
So what changed? I mean, COVID changed because people had time off. They wanted to get out where they could socially distance and all that other stuff. Is that what we're crediting this big bump for?
I think that had a lot to do with it. I think, people, like you said, all of a sudden you had a little bit more free time. You didn't have a commute to work. You weren't going out to dinner and the movie. You had a little bit more, had a little extra income you could spend on outdoor gear. And so I think people kind of went to the outdoors and sort of reignited a love for the outdoors. If you look at, the data, a majority of Michiganders not only support hunting and fishing, but, feel that the outdoors is kind of part of our our culture as Michigan citizens, and so I think that, you know, given the opportunity, people want to gravitate towards the outdoors and take advantage of all the natural resources we have to offer as a state.
Nick, I know what you guys there at the Michigan Wildlife Council are doing in trying to educate the non-hunting and angling public about what we do as outdoor enthusiasts. What about the Congressional Sportsman's Foundation? What's the job over there?
Yeah, so there I cover 7 states. I work with state legislators. We also work with governors and members of Congress to promote hunting, fishing, trapping, and sport shooting.
And how does that, I don't want to say battle, how does that task go? How's it going?
Pretty good, actually. Over the last couple of years, I think we've had some good movement on the federal level. Michigan's always been a pretty good state with a strong sportsman's caucus that gets together. They kind of look out for the sportsmen and women of the state, and obviously, you've got groups like MUCC. Michigan doesn't have a whole lot to worry about. They're usually on the offense compared to a lot of other states.
And I'm glad to hear you say that. And I don't want to be the guy who's crying wolf all the time. But when we say we don't have a lot to worry about, it does make me nervous because we do have more non-hunters or anglers in our state. So than we do those of us who live this lifestyle. So we can never really let our guard down. At least I think so, Nick.
No, I think that's accurate. I mean, it is. There are always folks out there that are, looking for low-hanging fruit and don't understand the importance of managing wildlife that actually hunting and fishing create, more sustainable, healthier wildlife populations. I think that's a misconception that people have. Hunting makes animals go extinct, which just simply isn't true. It's one of the best things we can do to ensure that, we have sustainable wildlife populations. So, there are always, and those groups have, unfortunately, they make a lot of noise and are pretty well financed. So there is always that to look out for.
Yeah, they got a lot of money behind them, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, listen, always a pleasure. Appreciate the update on the hunting license numbers, and you and I, I'm sure, will talk again soon.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Nick Bougie of the Michigan Wildlife Council and the Congressional Sportsman's Foundation. The website for Michigan Wildlife Council, by the way, hereformioutdoors.org, hereformioutdoors.org. And make sure you check out their Here for Generations campaign as well. That's a pretty cool effort that those folks are involved in. Nick mentioned the misconception that when you hunt animals, they become extinct. And that is a misconception. It's just the opposite. If you want to protect a certain species and make that species grow, basically put a season on it, because then $100 are directed at providing habitat for that critter and research and such, that it's actually shown that those numbers will grow when you have a season on something. And that might not make sense at first blush, but it is certainly true. Hour 2 coming up.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to our number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network, heard on 32 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, and glad to have you along with us. How are you? How has your week been since we've last talked? We're past Christmas now, so we're in the New Year celebration. A happy New Year to you. What are your goals for 2022? I don't say what are your resolutions, because resolutions are made to be broken. What are your goals? What do you want to establish in this new year? For me, it boils down to wanting to spend more time outdoors, more time hunting, more time fishing, more time shooting, just more time enjoying this outdoor lifestyle that many of us grew up in, many of us love so much. Now, I mentioned the radio show, and it's kind of a pet peeve of mine, right? I promote the fact that Outdoor Magazine Radio is first and foremost a radio show. And why do I do that? What does it matter? And you know what? To you, it really doesn't. But to me, it's an important distinction to make, because there aren't many syndicated outdoor radio shows on the air. And to be honest with you, Outdoor Magazine is one of the biggest statewide shows in the country. And even though you're not supposed to be prideful, I do take some pride in that. So I make the distinction that this is first and foremost a radio show. It is recorded, produced, distributed, syndicated as a radio show. And I think the best way to listen to Outdoor Magazine Radio, if you can, is on your local radio station. You get your local news, weather, sports, even your local commercials. Maybe there's something you want to take advantage of. Plus, the radio stations get the content of the show before the podcast is made available. But isn't it nice to know there is a podcast version of the show out there if you can't listen on your local radio station? Where do you hear that? Well, you can hear it on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, on my Facebook page, and anywhere else you can hear podcasts, from Amazon Music to Audible to Twitter to iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, the whole gamut. And I even put a version up on YouTube. Now, why do you do that, Avery? It's just sound. It's just audio. Because people listen / watch the show on YouTube, so that's out there as well. But I am a big fan of podcasting. I think it's a great way to reach people. And in addition to the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine show, I also have an Outdoor Magazine podcast network. And there you can hear the Offshore Tackle podcast, Angler Quest podcast, Polar Craft Boats, Shadow Hunter Blinds podcast, and new this month now, we have a Primal podcast wrapped around the Primal Tree Stand, Primal Ground Blind Company. So listen for the inaugural version of that as well. Regardless, though, of when you're listening to the show or how you're listening, I do certainly appreciate you being along with us. I mentioned the fact that I often talk about this history and tradition of the outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. There are certain activities that, to me, remind me of this tradition. And one of them is spearing. I call it pike spearing, but it's more than that. And I think about how for generations here in Michigan, people have put a shack on the ice and they've sputted a great big hole and they put a decoy down and they've watched this wonderful underwater world come alive. And maybe if they're lucky, a big pike will come through and they can drop a spear on it. Jason Michalski knows this tradition, this lifestyle very well. He is an avid spearer. In fact, he's president now of the Michigan Darkhouse Anglers Association, the website mi-darkhouse.org. And he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk more about it. Jason, welcome back. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Always a pleasure. Listen, and I realize ice conditions can change from day to day, but as we are recording this show midweek before the new year, what are you hearing about ice across the state?
Well, we were just starting to get out on a few lakes. I mean, it's still pretty, skinny as far as ice goes. Ice picks, ice suits, and take a buddy right now. Spud your way out. But last night up here in the West Branch area, we got about 6 inches of snow, so that's not going to help.
Now, yeah, I agree with you completely. But for folks that understand, why is that? Why does a blanket of fresh snow not help for ice?
For one, it insulates the ice so it doesn't build ice as fast. It also covers bad spots, things you can't see, old holes. Another issue is the weight pushes the ice down. brings water up, you get slush. And if you do make a big spear hole, a lot of times you end up sitting in a puddle of water.
So you don't paint a pretty good picture. What about in the Yoop? Are they out on the ice up there in the Yoop yet?
I've been hearing some guys getting up there. I know a lot of guys down here getting the itch and traveling up. I see some guys posting about Lake Ogeebic and on the west side. And so I've been hearing a little bit up there.
So if you want to travel and you want to be careful, there might be opportunities out there, or maybe just sit tight for a couple of weeks and see what Mother Nature does for us downstate.
Yeah, looks like it's getting better by the weather, but got a little warm spell, it sounds like Friday, and then hopefully it gets cold again.
Man, spearing and ice fishing are one of those things where we are completely at the mercy of Mother Nature.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, some years, we're on the Saginaw Bay by now, and other years we're sitting here just hoping that something freezes up for a couple of days.
Tell me about this appeal of spearing. I mean, it's been around for generations, and I know you, Jason, personally are working hard to keep this tradition alive.
Yeah, it's spearing. We always say, it's like bow hunting for fish. If you like to bow hunt and you like to hunt, spearing, it comes natural to a lot of guys that just have the drive. You said you get to watch everything. It's amazing the fish you see when you see down there, and you sit and you hope for that one fish to come through, perfect. And it's just something about being out there, in nature and just seeing things other people don't get to see.
It's like watching a big screen TV into the real live underwater world in real time.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot like even compared to maybe turkey hunting, where some guys don't like deer hunting because turkey hunting is more interactive, where you're calling and you're hearing the bird come in. It's similar to spearing. You want to coax a fish in, get in the right position, slow. You don't want it to come flying in. So it's a little different. It's kind of one-on-one with the fish. Playing the game with them. Getting a decoy, working it, and bringing them in.
Well, let's talk about the basics. I mean, you call yourself the Michigan Darkhouse Anglers Association, a dark house. What does that mean? You see in the water. I mean, you obviously want everything dark, so that's where it comes from. Back in the days when they built permanent shanties, and they sat in and called them a dark house because you don't have windows. You want it as dark as possible, and they usually paint the insides black so that the fish can't see up. And it's pitch black in there. You need a light to see. These days, that shack could be, like you say, a permanent, semi-permanent thing. It could be one of these portable pop-up shanties. I got to believe those work pretty well these days too.
Yeah, and that's actually what really helped us as far as getting numbers up, spearing, and you see a resurgence in the last 10, 15 years was the pop-up hubs. You got dark out inside, like the Eskimo 3-eyes a lot of guys use. You got the insulated material, which is black. They're portable, they're lightweight. You put them on a sled, pop them up in a few minutes, and you're ready to go.
Ready to go, except that you still got to make that pretty good hole in the ice there.
Yeah, and that can be the tough part, especially when you get a couple foot ice.
How big of a hole are you making, Jason?
Some guys go with a 2x2. I'm a fan of the big hole. Mine, a lot of times, 3 foot by 5 foot. Enough for the heater. I got a 6x6 hub, so I like a foot next to the hole for my heater. And then I've got a couple mats I set down, so I got enough room for my other stuff. And
how are you cutting a hole that big? Are you using a chainsaw or just augering a bunch of big round holes and making one big rectangular hole?
Well, I got a 10-inch auger. So I auger holes and then I connect the dots with an ice saw. The Fish's ice saw is what I use. There's some different Dream Outdoors makes one here in Michigan. There's a few commercially available. Niles has one. But I like to connect the dots. I've got a few friends that use chainsaws, and they work really well too.
One thing, and I don't want to get too far off track here, but you guys as spearers, when you leave a spot, you're leaving a pretty big hole in the ice. So that's a concern, isn't it? Yeah,
and we always push. I mean, and that at times that can be the negative aspect that people will put out there. Oh, you guys shouldn't be cutting that big hole. People are going to fall. It's dangerous. So we really push the education of marking your hole. Every hole you cut, you should push your blocks back in, or at least bust them up if you can't push them back in. Some guys shove them under, and then when you leave, mark them with limbs. We usually put it on both sides, if not all four sides of the hole, so that everybody knows there's a hole there.
Yeah, good advice from Jason Michalski of the Michigan Darkhouse Anglers Association. Their website, mi-darkhouse.org, mi-darkhouse.org. You can also find Jason on Instagram. We'll talk more about that after the break, but we do have to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, more about this Michigan tradition of spearing. I call it pike spearing, but there's more after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Newberry on WNBI, 1450 AM, and in Muskegon on WKBZ, 1090 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Rapid River Knives. I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now. I love working with Rapid River Knifeworks. Their showroom in Rapid River in the UP is absolutely beautiful. If you get a chance, stop by there. But give yourself a little time, because you're going to want to spend some time in there, not only looking at all the beautiful Rapid River knives, but the mounts that they have there, and just take a look around. If you can't get to the showroom, check out the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com. I couldn't say anything because I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag, but I bought 3 of those Rapid River folding knives as Christmas presents. I gave one to my son James, gave one to my grandson Trent, one to my grandson Carter, and they all loved them, and now they are carrying Rapid River knives as well, just like you can. Check them out online, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. We're talking now with Jason Michalski of the Michigan Darkhouse Angling Association. Their website, mi-darkhouse.org, mi-darkhouse.org. But Jason also has a presence on Instagram as well. Jason, you're pushing. I don't want to say pushing. You're doing what you can to keep this tradition alive. That's for sure.
Yes, Mike. We have some Instagram stuff. Although we do a lot of stuff on Facebook. We can try to do education to get people out there and let people know that we're here. One thing that we've been doing to try to get, more people involved and get them excited about being in the outdoors is every year we do a giveaway for our members to try to give back. This year we have some great prizes, hubs, spears, decoys, just for being a member and signing up. And, we have strength in numbers, so many members we can get, education, get people excited about spearing. I think that's a good thing. Pass it on to the next generation.
Oh, I think it's a great thing. And I love it when you guys share, you post your spearing videos. I love seeing those things. There's nothing like, I don't know, there's a certain excitement about just watching what you guys do. What are the basics? Now, we mentioned you want some kind of a shanty, some kind of a blind, and then you cut or drill this big hole. But then what? You talked about decoys. You talk about spears. How do we get started?
Most guys that already ice fish have the essentials already. You could use a flip over or a shanty, if you have one. Most guys have a spud, have an auger, and most guys have, spoons and different lures they could use in lieu of a decoy. You can take the hooks off spoons because then it doesn't count as a line. A lot of times, you can jig that, but the spear being the most basic thing you actually have to have. Other than that, most people have everything, and everything else is kind of more luxury as you upgrade as you go on. But it doesn't really take a whole lot. You can find, spears commercially made. Obviously, they're not as nice as the custom ones, but it's like a deer rifle. I mean, you can pay as much as you want. but you can start out with a basic one if you have to.
And if you look around, I mean, there are spears in sheds and barns and garage sales, and I mean, spearing has been around long enough. There are spears around if you want to take the time to look for them, and I think it's cool to use one of those old spears, kind of keeping the tradition, kind of keeping a part of Michigan history in your hands as you're out there on the ice.
Yeah, my first spear I started out with, my grandpa had it in a garage sale for $5. And it didn't sell. And I seen it, and he said, "Hey, you want it? Take it." It was his old spear, and I've used it ever since.
And you know, we talk about spearing and throwing a spear, but you're not really throwing it so much as you are just kind of letting it go, right, and guiding it toward the fish.
Yeah, it's like shooting pool. You know, you take the cue stick, you're not slamming as hard as you can. It's a kind of a guided throw. You want to put a little bit of muscle into it. You know, it's not just a drop, but you take it, you know, you get it over the fish, you line it up, and you kind of just a push and you send it.
And you're setting up, you know, you want to clear a water, or you want to be able to at least see the fish, see the bottom. You're in a depth that's shallow enough that you can effectively see the bottom and spear these fish. Beyond that, what are the subtleties? What are the nuances? Where are you setting up?
Oh, boy, there's a lot to that. Basically, you're setting up. A lot of guys scout with tip-ups to start out. And then once you get good, you know, I don't really have to do that anymore. But you're looking for breaks anywhere that a pike would feed and be active on the edge of break, weed lines, you know, drop, structure. Anywhere, basically, you got panfish. You're like on a Saginaw Bay, any hot perch area is going to have pike in it because they're in there feeding. You're looking for anything that would attract the pike. And we take, and even big weed flats, you're looking for holes in the weeds, you know, areas they can get in, you can set up on. And I've speared deep water where you can't see bottom, and that is tough because fish float and get out quick.
I see. I didn't even realize that was an option.
Yeah, it is. It'll decoy up. You can set up in 20, 30 foot of water and put your decoys down 6, 8 feet, and a pike will float right up to it. They'll come right to the surface.
Boy, I'm trying to picture that. That's got to be almost unnerving, a little bit mysterious. You're looking into this dark black hole, and a fish materializes. That's got to be pretty cool.
It is pretty neat. It kind of reminds you of something you see on like Jaws.
Yeah.
You're sitting looking at a black hole, and I've done it not necessarily on purpose, but you set out a little too deep, and you swim the decoy, and just you see a mouth out of nowhere, just grab it.
So there are size limits, though, right? I mean, you can't just spear willy-nilly. You're looking for a fish of a certain size or bigger.
Yeah, I mean, our standard in Michigan, which I guess you can't really say standard anymore because they kind of split it now, is 24 inches or bigger, you know, 2 pike. And so we tell most guys, if you don't know, don't throw. You're looking at a fish, and try not to go for the 24. Some guys say they go for 30 inches or bigger. I tend to go 26 inches or bigger, give myself a little bit of error in there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you can't put them back in. I mean, that fish is injured. You know, so
yeah, there's no spear and release like you can catch and release. Once you throw that spear, if you connect, I mean, you're taking that fish. So you do want to be careful. How do you judge the size of that fish, Jason, especially for a newbie?
Well, you know, one of the best ways, like I said, to kind of split how our state pike waters are. And also some of the lakes are no size limit. You can take 5 pike, no minimum size, but no more than 1 over 24 inches. And that's a good place to spear fish, bring them up, measure them, see what they look like in the water. But also a good way is, you know, the size of your decoy. If you got a 12-inch decoy, you can use that as a judgment. And I like to run smaller decoys, so I set my lines 24 inches apart. So if the fish swims up between the decoys, I can judge it pretty easy that way.
So there's a lot of tricks. There's a lot of tricks for judging the size of that fish.
Right. And like in Minnesota, they have a lot of slot limits, which we've kind of been fighting here. It makes it really hard to spear. And a lot of guys will get out of spearing on lakes that have slot limits because it's hard. But they run like a PVC. They'll put it on the bottom, an X, that they can bring up at the end of the day. And so they know if the fish is in that PVC size, they can't spear it.
Can you use a live decoy? Is that legal? Is that effective?
Yeah, and a lot of guys do, and that'd be another cheap way to start out if you don't have access to good decoys and can't find decoys. You can use a sucker, and even in your standard, it doesn't have to be a monster huge sucker. They're hard to find sometimes. They work better, but you can use a tip-up sucker, that we normally use, and just either use a treble hook, but if you do, it counts as a line. If you use a pin that comes with it or a harness that doesn't have a hook, it doesn't count as a line. So some guys get in spearing that way because you can still run 3 tip-ups and you can spear.
And you've got if you're using a handmade decoy, and a lot of them, you guys have been making these things for years, you're kind of jigging the decoy, and that's doing what, circles below the hole? Yeah,
a good swimming decoy, which most of your customers are going to swim better than your store bought. They're kind of night and day. A good swimming decoy, when you pull it, it'll glide nice and smooth and level all the way around, making a complete circle and come back. And we swim the decoys. Some guys swim more often. I swim it every 10 to 15 minutes. I'll give it 2 or 3 pulls and let it sit.
Oh. And when that fish comes in, are they coming in slow and looking at this thing and giving you plenty of time to make a judgment and let a spear go? Or are they come in like a freight train and surprise you and you don't get a chance to throw it?
Well, that happens both ways, but ideally you want them to come in slow, and that's why I let mine sit a lot. Them big pike will roll in and stare at it. But if you're constantly jigging it, moving it, a lot of days they'll come in, grab it, take it out of the hole, or hit it and run, and you don't ever get a throw at them. It's a real cat and mouse game.
Is it just pike, or is it some places you can spear muskies, can't you?
Yeah, in Michigan you can spear muskie. Lake St. Clair is closed. That's been kind of a battle, trying to get some kind of a season there. But there's a lot of commercial, charters out there that are against it, so It's kind of been closed. But most of the places in Michigan, there's a list, obviously, on the DNR website, lakes you can't. The majority of them are open, and you can spear muskie. 1 a year, that's all year, so it's the same reporting system as in the summertime.
And then very limited, very special, I think they're spearing sturgeon during the Chivalry for a very limited and a very small number of fish too, right?
Yeah, historically, Mullet, Black Lake, Burt Lake were open, and there's only a few guys that have speared big fish in all 3. And I met one guy that was in his 90s that did it, but they had a population collapse years ago. There was some violating going on, and so only Black Lake now is open just for the 1 day.
Gotcha.
Well, I can't say 1 day. It's open till they hit the quota, but normally it's only 1 day.
1 day or less. Jason, listen, I appreciate the work you're doing to keep this tradition alive of pike spearing, and send people to the website mi-darkhouse.org, mi-darkhouse.org, and follow you on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
We deal mostly with Facebook. It's more than Instagram, but it was all under the Michigan Darkhouse Angling Association.
It is. All right. Very good. All right. Keep up the good work. We'll talk again soon. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Nick Green of MUCC checks in right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Manistee, 2 of our newest affiliates. WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in St. Joe. Let's go to the opposite end of the state. St. Joe, WSTM 94.9 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. VersaSkins.com. VersaSkins.com. And I was just talking to Paul Perrone off the air. They want to be a part of our Wednesday night lives coming up this year as we do them in person at the Lumberjack Restaurant in March, June, September, and December. He's going to offer discounts there. You can come in and see the product. But in the meantime, check out the website, VersaSkins.com, VersaSkins.com. Great Michigan-based family-owned company. You know I love that. I'm a Michigan guy. I make no apologies. I am a Michigan guy. I like to work with Michigan companies, Michigan causes, Michigan groups, including MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs, MUCC.org. Nick Green is basically their PR guy. He's off on vacation this week. He's tying steelhead leaders, and he's still taking the time to talk with us on the phone line. Nick, I do appreciate that.
Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt your vacation, but I know you're a dedicated guy. If you get the chance to talk about Michigan causes and conservation and the group itself, and listen, let's talk about membership right now. I was just thinking off the air, I think it's probably time for me to renew my membership, and I will. But this membership in MUCC, it's important because basically there's strength in numbers.
Yeah, it really, there's importance for us as staff, as kind of the rest of the membership with the numbers, but there's also importance for the member, being able to propose a resolution and see it all the way through the process and be there to get a pen from the governor when it gets signed into law, or meet with the NRC commissioners when they enact, the resolution. So it's kind of, it's just it's fun to see the process come full circle through membership, but there's so many ways to engage, whether you want to be in the policy world, whether you want to work on just habitat and work on planting trees and making sure that our public lands in Michigan are bettered for the next generation. Whether you want to come down to our youth camp. We've educated more than 58,000 kids since inception in 1946. There's just a lot of ways to engage and be a member of MUCC, but certainly there is strength in numbers. That's definitely something we tout as we're the largest statewide conservation organization. So there is no doubt that there's strength in our membership and the numbers of our members. Well,
how do we do it, Nick? I mean, we talked about this concept of becoming a member. Break it down. How do we become a member of MUCC?
The easiest way is to go to mucc.org. You hit join. You can join for 1 year, 2 years, or become a lifetime member. Our 1 year membership costs $35. A 2 year is $60. You can use the promo code Mike, M-I-K-E, capital M-I-K-E, and get I believe it's a 25% discount on your membership. That's the easiest way to do it. You can also call us. Our number is 517-346-6486, and we can set you up that way. Those are probably the two easiest ways.
Well, and we're not talking a lot of money, $35. And you do get some spiffs for that, right?
Get some what? Sorry.
Spiffs. I mean, you're gonna get something for this. For example, this wonderful magazine that you're the editor of. You do a great job.
Yes, that was a word I hadn't heard. Yes, you will get, if you join as an individual member, you will get the Michigan Outdoors magazine. It's a 100-page quarterly. It's a quality magazine. It's quality paper, quality cover. It's something we're proud of. I'm the editor of. I'm proud of it. You will get, the ability to enact in all of our policy processes. You'll get to see Tracks Magazine a couple times a year and the ability to purchase that for youth in your life. Lots of abilities and opportunities come along with being a member too.
We should too. We're this New Year edition of Outdoor Magazine Radio just this week. You got a new year coming up, so that means challenges, that means opportunities, that means things that you guys want to get accomplished. What's on the radar in the immediate future for MUCC?
We're really trying to get a commercial guiding package across the finish line. This is something we've worked on through several different legislative sessions. It's been a little bit watered down. It's not as strong as we would have liked to have seen in the beginning. But essentially, we're trying to keep bad actors from being able to continue to be guides. So if you have a egregious poaching violation, you probably shouldn't be able to be a guide the next year. Things like that. There's not a lot of cost to it, nothing like that. But that's something we're working hard on. We're really looking at renewable energy and kind of the administration's push to kind of maybe site solar, site renewable on public lands. I don't want to say a push, but and how we can look at maybe areas that are less desirable to do that. So that's something kind of in these off years where we don't have a lot going on. Something we're going to look at. It is an election year, so as with anything else, everything gets thrown in a blender and chopped up during those years. So we'll probably be playing whack-a-mole and killing bad bills as they come up, and good, trying to prop up good bills. It'll just kind of depend.
Nick, I appreciate the work that you put into it. We'll let you get back to your steelhead leaders, and we'll talk again soon. Nick Green of MUCC, the website mucc.org. As Nick said, if you want to join MUCC or renew, the easy way to do it, mucc.org. Click on the join button. If you want to save some money, use my promo code Mike, all caps, M-I-K-E, as I'm going to be doing here to make sure my membership is up to date. We'll take a break. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Escanaba, the Riviera of the North, on WCHT 600 AM 95.3 FM. Staying in the UP, you can hear us in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. Let's drop downstate to Ludington, News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And let's one more. Let's find one more. We'll go back to the UP. We'll go back to the UP. Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. The Ask Avery segment. By the way, thank you, Mike Daniels and the Radio Results Network for making those 6 UP stations part of the Outdoor Magazine radio family. I do appreciate that. The Ask Avery segment, by the way, is brought to you each week by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the program. You can pose a question to me directly that you want me to answer, or maybe it's something that you want me to ask of MUCC or the DNR. Sometimes I can get to people in the DNR that maybe you can't. Send me an email, I think, is the best way to do this. Send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can, and I've had several people do it, post questions through the different social media messaging platforms, but I got to be honest, there are so many of them out there, and it might get lost in the mix. So if you want to make sure you get them to me, send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I've got a couple of them right now that I'm working on that people have sent me very specific questions about fish and game issues that I'm trying to work through the DNR, trying to get them answered by the DNR. The department is usually very responsive to that, but I think because of the holiday and a lot of people off until next week, that I don't have firm answers. So let me go back to a question that Ron Young has emailed to me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And maybe it's kind of a softball question, but I think it's a question that I do get asked quite a bit. Ron sends me an email. Mike, I like listening to the radio show, and I do listen to the podcast version of the show, and I also listen to the podcast on your network, and I appreciate that. He said he especially likes the offshore podcast. I appreciate that, Ron. Thank you. But he said, I know you've been around for a long time, but how did you get into this whole outdoor magazine thing? How did you get into this whole concept of being an outdoor broadcaster? And I appreciate that, Ron. It goes back 41 years ago now. I grew up, it goes back longer than that. I grew up on the west side of Michigan, northern Kent County, Cedar Springs, north of Grand Rapids. I grew up on a farm out there, hunting and fishing and chasing rabbits and chasing deer and chasing pheasants and fishing Cedar Creek and fishing Duke Creek, and eventually going over and fishing Lake Michigan with my dad for salmon and trout. So I kind of grew up in the outdoors. I grew up a farm kid. I grew up hunting and fishing, and I loved it. And when I got out of school, I went to Ferris for electronics and loved that, and realized after a 2-year degree I wasn't ready to leave school yet, so I'm looking around for something else. So there was this program that came up at Ferris called, I don't remember what it was called, but it was a broadcasting program. So I ended up getting a degree in that. Got a job, a part-time job at Channel 12 in Flint, WJRT TV 12 in Flint, as a videographer. And that was pretty cool. It's like, hey, the images I'm recording ended up on the news, and that's cool. I eventually worked my way into. I didn't want to be a reporter. That wasn't my goal, but they eventually made me a reporter. So I was a part-time reporter, part-time videographer. Made the jump up to TV5 in Saginaw. And that's when things really started to happen, because there I was doing more on-air stuff, still doing my own video stuff, but doing on-air stuff. And I was faced with a decision. What do I want to do? What are my interests? Okay, I was doing a cop beat. I enjoyed that. Is there a future in a cop beat? Probably not. I enjoy the outdoors. What can I do now? Okay, how can I take this passion for the outdoors, this love for hunting and fishing, combine it with my love for video and telling stories? How can I do that? Started this thing called News 5 Outdoors. That was very popular at the local level. And it let me know that, okay, there's an interest in this. There's a market for this. How can I expand it now? Okay, PM Magazine was on the air at the time. How can we take this interest in PM Magazine, kind of parlay that into an outdoor thing? Okay, we'll start something called Outdoor Magazine. Not very original, I get it, but it worked. Outdoor Magazine was on a quarterly show on WNEM TV5. I left there because they said, you know what? You're walking around with a smile on your face. You're too happy. You like this. We're not going to pay you to do this because we think you're going to do it anyway. And if you go out and do it on your own, we'll air the show. So I did that. TV show was on in Michigan, eventually went on to the Outdoor Channel. I thought, you know what? Let's do radio as well. Started a local 1-hour radio show at WMAX in Saginaw. That then became syndicated. Long story short, after many years in TV, I got out of TV, now doing just radio, doing social media. The best move I ever made was getting out of TV and concentrating on radio, and I love it. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can find out about all of the stuff there. Ron Young, thank you for asking that question, and Security Credit Union, appreciate you making the Ask Avery segment possible. SecurityCU.org, SecurityCU.org. Dave Mull coming.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. Happy New Year to you. You made it through Christmas time now, where we're looking at a new year and all the excitement that brings, all the challenges that brings, all the plans that brings. When you look at 2022, what are your, and I'll never use the term resolutions because I think resolutions are too easily broken. What are your goals for 2022? For me, it's pretty simple. First and foremost, I want to spend more time outdoors. Basically, that's it. I want to spend more time outdoors. I want to try some different, I want to make sure I get a Michigan bear this year. I'm looking forward to turkey season. I want to try some different fishing. I want to broaden my fishing horizons, and I'm thinking maybe it's not that broad. I want to try new areas and new baits on the Angler Quest on Saginaw Bay. I guess that's not really broadening my horizons. If I wanted to broaden my horizons, I talk about picking up a fly rod and heading to the Asable, or maybe I talk about jumping into a kayak. My buddy Dave Mull has been talking about yak fishing for a long time, and he's an expert at it, and I have much respect for him, and he keeps telling me, Avery, you can fit into a kayak, especially now that the smaller version of Avery is out there. Maybe that is something I should do. Dave Mull is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. He was supposed to be steelhead fishing on the St. Joe River this morning, but plans have changed, and he's talking with us, and I do appreciate it. Dave, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be here, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Now, listen, how come you're not steelheading this morning?
I had a little bit of a cold. I didn't want it to turn into pneumococcal pneumonia or something.
I tell you, this weather, I've been sick. Everybody I know has been sick. This up and down. Our bodies don't know what we're dealing with right now.
That's right. Yeah, and you never know if it's the Rona or not, too. So
life in the modern world. Well, listen, you better be healthy by next weekend when the Ultimate Fishing Show comes up.
Right. Starts Thursday. I'm looking forward to it. I love doing those seminars on the hog trough and in Lake Ultimate in the kayak.
And isn't it just nice that, I mean, at this point at least, it looks like they're going to be able to pull it off. Isn't it nice that we have something like that to look forward to again?
Man, isn't it? It is so great. I'm looking forward to, I like outdoor shows anyway. It's like a lot of my friends are there and people I don't see on a regular basis other than at outdoor shows. And so, it's going to be a good time.
Now, you're going to be doing some seminars there. What are you going to be talking about, Dave?
On the hog trough, I'm talking about Ned Rig fishing and finesse fishing in some specific rigs other than Ned Rigs that are considered finesse, like upgraded split shot rigs for bass, and some of the baits that have really shown for me that not a lot of guys are using as far as Ned Rigs go.
What is a Ned Rig? You've talked to me about this before. I'm not sure I can picture it.
A Ned Rig is basically a really small worm on a light jig head. It's kind of an offshoot of the old Charlie Brewer slider worms. I don't know if you're familiar with those.
A little bit.
The theory is that most of what a bass eats doesn't draw attention to itself like a spinnerbait does or a popar or something on the surface, that most of the things that a bass eats are trying to hide from the bass. So, or just go about its daily business without getting eaten. So the idea behind a slider rig is you don't impart any action to it. It's just basically a worm on a light jig head. Let it sink really close to the bottom in most cases. Really slow, kind of polish the rocks with it, and don't impart any movement other than bringing it forward. And that's the way a minnow moves through the water, or a crayfish that's just crawling along the bottom. And a Ned Rig is an offshoot of that. Not really an offshoot. It was kind of developed independently in Kansas. Ned Cady is the one who popularized it. He's a 80-year-old. I think he's 80 now, 80 or 81. And still fishes as often as he can, and he goes out and he tries to catch as many bass as he can on a very small, light jig head with a small worm. And the whole lure has just taken off like crazy. There was so much resistance among the bass guys to begin with. You need to use 20-pound tests. You need to use a big spinnerbait, a big crankbait. Well, the Ned Rig's about 2 3/4 inches long, basically, and you just move it through the water column. You can drag it along the bottom. You can swim it back, and it's basically just a little swimming worm is the basics for it. But there are different body styles. There's ones that look like hellgrammites, kind of. There's ones that look like crayfish. But the basic ones are just kind of basically a jig worm. And, man, you just catch all kinds of fish on it. Guys initially said, well, you only catch small fish on it. Well, not really. You catch a lot of small fish on it, but, I've caught them up to 5 pounds on it. And, I don't catch that many 5-pounders on anything else, So it's just a real effective bait to get bites.
How did you find this guy in Kansas and come and take advantage of his knowledge?
Well, I have always been a fan. Way back when I first started bass fishing, 40 years ago in my 20s, there used to be a 2-inch worm from Toledo Tackle. It was a Toledo tackle made in Louisiana, 2-inch worm. And we found some jig heads and would put it on that, and it would catch so many different kinds of fish, including a lot of bass. So Ned developed his Ned Rig, and he didn't name it after himself. It was named that in In-Fisherman. Steve Quinn, the editor of In-Fisherman, got a story from Ned, who is an outdoor writer also, about the effectiveness of this little worm on a little jig head. And Steve Quinn started calling it a Ned Rig, and that's where it came from. Then Z-Man, who makes these Elastec baits that are basically indestructible. You can take a 2 3/4 inch worm, TRD, and stretch it basically as far as you can without breaking it. Move your arms apart. It's an amazing material. And what's great about that is you can catch fish after fish after fish. In fact, I think, the record's like 250 or something on the same little piece of plastic. But anyway, the Ned Rig was kind of making just kind of a ruckus, not a ruckus, but it was getting some renown. And I got an assignment from Bassmaster Magazine where I write a kayak column, and the editor and I had fished together, and I'd fished a Ned Rig with him, and he gave me the assignment to write a story about the Ned Rig. So I went out to Kansas and fished with Ned, who was very gracious, very articulate about how he does it, and showed me how to do it. And we went out to the very first place that he had used it, and this was, I want to say it was 10 years later, maybe 20 years later, but where he, one of the Army Corps of Engineer reservoirs around Lawrence, Kansas, and he had caught 100 and some fish on the same lure 10 years before, and it was like the 10-year anniversary of that event, and we went there and we caught, I don't know, about 40 or something on the Ned Rig, and I got a great story out of it, got some good photos and stuff, and it was an easy transition for me to throw small stuff when I found out that this was available because of the old 2-inch worm. So, I'd say about 90% of the things that I throw could be considered a Ned Rig, in all the kayak tournaments and stuff that I fish.
How cool to have a technique or a bait named after you. Wouldn't it be cool to have a Dave Rig out there?
Yeah. The Dave Rig.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be, but
it would be red.
Yeah, right.
Oh, and then you mentioned yaks. You have done more, in my opinion, to promote fishing from kayaks and promote the sport of kayak angling than anybody I know, Dave.
Well, I guess you don't know that many people, Mike. No.
Well, I know a few.
Yeah. Well, it's a passion. I picked it up about 9 or 10 years ago, and it's all I want to do. I mean, it's almost silly. I have a 5-year-old Miracraft boat that I bought, and it hasn't been used in 2 years. And it's a nice boat. But I just would rather throw the kayak on a trailer in the back of the truck and go kayak fishing. I just like being close to the water, and it's just more peaceful, and, you're more a part of nature in a kayak, I think.
We're talking with Dave Mull here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. Dave is a guy who's been around the fishing industry, the boating industry for forever. In fact, I'll go way back here. I first met Dave at a writers' conference when he was doing PR and marketing for Starcraft Boats, and this has been, 40 years or so ago. He's also got a very interesting story about surviving a boat sinking in southern Lake Michigan, which we're not going to get into either one of those stories today. We'll save those for future conversations, because today what I want to talk about after the break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show is more about what he's going to talk about at the Ultimate Fishing Show, and also some of his other techniques. And can you be out in a kayak right now? I mean, it's wintertime. Is it going to work? You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on ESPN 1400. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. From plumbing, heating, air conditioning, sump pumps, ductwork cleaning, you name it, the folks from Wilds can take care of it. Their slogan is whatever it takes. And I actually had a chance to check this out firsthand on Christmas Eve. We've got they call it a mini split, but it's a heating and air conditioning unit in what was a 3 seasons room. Now it's a 4 seasons room. And we were getting some ice, some ice buildup on the condenser on the outside. And I thought, man, this can't be right. So I called the folks at Wilds and talked to their guy on call and got it all straightened out. Turns out it's completely normal. That's the way it's designed to work. But again, it was a phone call on the afternoon of Christmas Eve, and they helped me out. Whatever it takes. That's their slogan. That's their motto. I've seen it again and again. I welcome them into my house, and I encourage you to do the same. I can do that with complete confidence. WildsPlumbingandHeating.com, WildsPlumbingandHeating.com, whatever it takes. Well, you heard the spot there for the Ultimate Fishing Show coming up here very soon, and they quoted Kevin Van Dam, and they quoted Mark Zona, but they never mentioned Dave Mull, and Dave Mull, I think that's a travesty.
Yeah, those guys are in trouble, though, because I'm going to be on the hog trough while they're on Lake Ultimate, so their crowd's going to be tiny. Yeah, right. Fortunately, the seats by the hog trough are more comfortable, so people that are taking a break from shopping sit there. So there's always people to talk to, even if they're not listening to you.
So what is this hog trough?
It's a huge aquarium, basically, with bass and crappies and catfish and bluegills and stuff in it. You climb up onto a sawed-off deck of a bass boat, and you cast into it. You can't use anything that can actually hook a fish. But it's a ton of fun because, I've always done the finesse presentations on it. And those fish jump all over those little things. They've been seeing spinner baits and crankbaits and stuff from other seminar givers. And, they're not used to seeing that kind of stuff. But the little Ned Rig looks like, the minnows they toss in to feed them, and they jump all over it. I've caught 2 fish on hookless lures on the hog trough on Ned Rigs. It's just a ball because, in the past I would have a little booth there, and I would sell, the Z-Man products. And I would have, it'd be like Tiger Woods walking down the aisle with all these people that were at the seminar to my booth to buy Ned Rig stuff because they just seen him catch 2 fish without any hooks. So.
You don't have a booth there this year?
No. I'm going to be hanging out with the Topwater Series guys at their booth as a place to set up camp. The Topwater Series is basically the tournament kingpins in Michigan. 2 guys, Kyle Van Leuven and Mike Anderson, started this tournament series. And I would say the core of it are their weeknight tournaments. They have 3-hour tournaments throughout basically from April until August. And they have, I'm not sure if they've expanded it, but they had 8 different leagues across the state. And, the same guys show up for the various ones in, geographically different areas and fish for 3 hours. And, it's a catch photo release format. Put your fish on a ruler, take a picture of it. And they have their own software where you submit it and it automatically tabulates everybody's catch. So you can, in real time, actually see who has more inches than you do and how many more fish you have to catch up and stuff. And if I can brag, which I think I will,
sure.
I was Angler of the Year in the Kalamazoo division this year.
Wow.
Which was quite an accomplishment. I mean, basically I beat 17 other people that showed up at almost all of the events. So it's not like a, Bassmaster Angler or something, but It was fun because, you know, I'm about 20 years older than the next closest person, you know.
And 20 years and 20 years wiser.
Well, yeah. And plus I use Ned Rigs.
Right. So this tournament circuit, this is a kayak only circuit?
Yeah, it's kayak only. They allow trolling motors. There's a lot of tournament kayaks now that have electric motors in them. I used one year before last and didn't really like it. I went back to a pedal power kayak just because I feel like I can fish better out of it. And that's really the reason I got into kayak fishing, too. One of the reasons was just more physical activity. And, you know, you get a trolling motor and you might as well be in a bass boat, you know?
I was thinking when you said you were going to be on the river this morning, the southern part of the state is pretty ice-free right now. Could you take a kayak out right now and fish on them?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to be real careful, Mike. You know, you really need to go with someone else, and you should have a dry suit, you know, so that if you do take a spill, you don't, you know, hypothermiate. You know, and those are kind of expensive. I mean, a lot of guys go out without dry suits this time of year. You know, the other crazies that, you know, along with me that still go fishing this time of year. But, you know, a kayak offers a nice way to go panfish fishing in the same places that you would be fishing now through the ice, if there was ice. You know, you can sneak back in those little channels and stuff and fish the same way you would through the ice. I've taken a flasher unit that I've used for ice fishing and ice rods out this time of year. And, you know, just fish like you were fishing for panfish through the ice. It's the same thing. It's just like the video game thing where you see the fish come in and look at your lure. And you can catch a lot of fish because the guys with boats aren't out now. Their boats are all winterized pretty much.
Yeah. That's a great point. You don't have to worry about that with a kayak. I mean, you take it out of the water and you're done.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. There's not a whole lot of winter maintenance you have to be careful of.
I don't want to get too political and talk about global warming and all that stuff, but there is no doubt we are not getting the winters we used to, at least when I was a kid growing up on the west side of the state.
That's for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, by now we would have ice most years that was fishable between Christmas and New Year's. Even, you know, I'm in the Kalamazoo area. I grew up around Three Rivers, you know, spending a lot of time in Three Rivers on Quarry Lake, and we were always fishing right around Christmas and before New Year's.
You've made a career in the outdoor industry. How did this all start for you, Dave? I mentioned first time I met you, you were with StarCraft. I mean, you've done a lot of things since then. Yeah.
As far as getting into outdoor riding, it was something that I always wanted to do. I got sick with, I think, pneumonia when I was just a little kid, and my grandfather brought me a stack of Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, and Sports Afield magazines. He subscribed to all three. And, you know, I was an avid reader, and, he had taken me fishing. My dad took me fishing and stuff, and so I started just reading all those magazines, and I was like, man, when I grow up, I want to be Homer Circle. You know, just go fishing and get paid for it, you know? So outdoor riding was something that I always wanted to do. My dad discouraged me. You know, he said, you know, you should be a lawyer or something. And it's like, well, we'll see. But anyway, so my first job was in newspapers, and I had done some sports writing, and I ended up with a column on the sports pages about recreation. It wasn't really outdoor related, but then the sports editor, who was also the outdoor editor, Louis Stout, left and found a job in an agency. And so I took over writing the outdoor column. And I had a mentor, Al Spires. He helped me a lot, get me into the outdoor organizations. This was back in 1984. And so I started freelancing on the side while I had other jobs, including the one at StarCraft. I still had a newspaper column way back then. Went to work for an agency in Arizona for a year. That didn't work out, so I came back and pitched in full-time as a freelance outdoor writer and, tended bar at night to be able to buy groceries as I got started. But, back then in the 90s, man, you could make a good living doing it. Now it seems like it's more of a sideline hobby.
Yeah.
Just because nobody really wants to pay anything. And, it's all about creating content. You have to be a content creator now instead of a writer. I've had a long, fun career doing it for sure.
Well, I think about, for so many years, I thought of you as a big water troller. You're out there on Lake Michigan running downriggers and dipsies and everything else after salmon and trout. And what you're doing these days is so basic and simple and beautiful compared to the type of fishing that you used to spend most of your time on.
Yeah, that's for sure. I still enjoy going out and trolling for salmon and walleyes and stuff like that. I don't get the opportunity to do it that much, but friends will invite me now and then, and it's fun. But back when I was running my own boat, you'd have 25 different trolling setups and zillions of lures and all that stuff. And as a person that's dealt with ADD pretty much my whole life, kayak fishing is so much simpler and so much less tackle and so much less preparation that it's just, you're right, it's a beautiful thing. I enjoy it very much. It's easier to do. You throw your kayak in after your work day and, a few rods and some tackle boxes, and you're on the water fishing.
Well, Dave, I look forward to seeing you talk more about this at the Ultimate Fishing Show in Novi coming up next weekend. And I'm sure you will get a bigger crowd than Van Dam or Zona combined.
Yeah, no doubt, Mike. Especially since I'm on the radio.
There you go. See, they didn't get the promotion you just got. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. All right, Dave, listen, always a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right. Dave Mull talking here on the Outdoor Magazine Show, a guy who's been around the fishing industry, like I said, for a long, long time. I should have asked him where you can read his stuff. Just do a search online for Dave Mull, and you'll get all kinds of content, as Dave calls it. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, a few more things to talk about. Then we'll wrap it all up, as always, with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name's Mike Avery. Glad to have you along with us. You can hear the show on 32 AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan, including WMIC in Sandusky. That's 600 AM, 660 AM, and 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and 100.5 FM. In fact, we're in the studios of WSGW right now. I'm here with Pat Johnston. Pat doing a wonderful job as always. Appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard, as they have for me, although my outdoor getaway right now is kind of it looks nice. I mean, we got some nice accent lights on it, and when the snow falls at night, it looks beautiful from the comfort of the house. But they've done a great job in doing a lot of landscaping for us, maintaining the yard, maintaining the trees. Top quality people. They do a top quality job, and they've been around for a long time, so you know you can trust them. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. By the way, they also do snow removal as well, readerlandscaping.com. I enjoyed that conversation with Dave Mull. He's a very, very interesting guy. And as next spring, maybe I'll get him back on the show and have him tell the story of how he survived his fishing boat sinking off, I think it was South Haven, maybe St. Joe. It's been a few years now, though, but to hear the story of how how the boat went down and how fast it went down and what it's like to be bobbing around out there and have other people come trolling by you and just not see you. And he described the combination. It was like the perfect storm in a good way because the water temp was warm and the waves weren't too bad and he got rescued. And just a very, very, very interesting story. And he's an interesting guy. What else? A Happy New Year to you. I don't know what your goals, your resolutions are, your plans for the upcoming year, but I hope they involve something in the outdoors. My goals are I've got a couple of them. I want to shoot a deer. I haven't shot a deer in many, many years. I want to shoot a Michigan bear. I want to take a turkey this spring, expand my fishing horizons, and just plain spend more time outdoors. And I don't mean mowing my lawn. I mean more time in the woods or on the water. Did you remember to apply for the Pure Michigan Hunt? I did, and it's a good thing because I'm going to win. And we should know here in the next couple of weeks the three winners, the three names, the three people who did win. And I just think I'm going to be one of them. Not heading down to the ATA show this year, the Archery Trade Association. I always used to look forward to that show and going down and seeing the new bows and talking to people. And it's just not viable anymore. And I feel bad for, number one, the retailers who go to that show, who buy their product. And this year, a lot of the big name companies aren't going to be there. And I especially feel bad for these startup companies that in the past had used the ATA show as a way to get their name out there and get their product out there and get these orders written to help jumpstart them, to kickstart them, to get the business going. I know 2 or 3 companies, Michigan-based companies, who are really, I don't want to say counting on, but have really high hopes for writing a bunch of orders at the ATA show. And I just hope and pray that does indeed come through. I did not make it back out at the end of the season to put down a big doe. That had kind of been one of my goals. I was talking about it, thinking about it, planning on it. It just didn't happen. I guess when it comes down to it, I don't love deer hunting as much as maybe a lot of you do, or as much as I used to. I mean, if we were talking about bear hunting, if we were talking about turkey hunting, I would not miss a day. If I could be out there in the woods or in the blind, I would not miss a day. But deer hunting, I like it, but I don't live it and breathe it, and like many of you do. What else? Looking forward to 2022. We do have plans to get our Wednesday night lives back on track, live at the Lumberjack Restaurant. In fact, we're going to do them the first Wednesdays of March, June, September, and December. Details on that as they become available, but that's a Forward Corporation Lumberjack Restaurant. We've done several of those there in the past. They've been very popular. No plans at this point to do a Wednesday night live at Chef Dave Minar's Oscar and Joey's Roadhouse. I love doing them there. But like so many other people, Dave he's a staffing shortage. In fact, it's going to be a stretch for the folks at Forward to make this happen, but they promise that they will be able to do that. And finally, promo codes. Go to primaltreestands.com. Use the promo code Avery, primaltreestands.com, promo code Avery to get deep discounts on everything at the website, including that Wraith 270 see-through ground blind that I love so much. Go to michiganbrand.net. Get a discount on all the great Michigan products, including the Mike Avery Hunter Sticks and the hams that I love so much. Use the promo code Mike21 and go to mucc.org. mucc.org. Use the promo code Mike, all caps, and save 25% on your MUCC membership. See, I'm saving you money. You got to spend some money, but I'm saving you money. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we will check in and wrap up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. He'll have another great recipe. I'm not sure what it is. Will it be fish? Will it be venison? Will it be small game? I don't know, but we'll find out after the break, coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery, and I am so glad to have you along with us as we kick off this new year of 2022. I wish you nothing but great times in the outdoors in this year coming up. As I was saying before the break, I never did make it back out to try to put that big doe in the freezer. But guess what? My good friend, wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, had a little better luck as he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. David, welcome back. How are you?
Happy.
Happy. What happened? Do me the story.
Oh, I finally got my doe. I was holding off all season for some of the really nice bucks. I didn't want to do any shooting or anything on my food plot there. And I waited till the last possible minute almost to take a big doe. So I went out a lot of times and never saw anything. But on the trail cam, you could see them in the food plot. We got a lot of good clover, and they were in there night after night after night, sometimes a little during the day when I wasn't there, of course.
Yeah.
And then the big mama with 7 other ones walked up, and boom.
So venison for the freezer.
Got a nice 8 point, so now she's rubbing it in again.
Well, but that's okay. You got venison in the freezer.
Now we do. It'll last a whole year, so we'll be good.
So listen, let's do it in honor of that, in honor of your big doe. Let's do a venison recipe.
Okay, we have venison roll-up, which is Rouladen in German. It's a kind of a dramatic dish. And we did this for the show, I can't even tell you how many years ago, probably back in the 1990s or something. So you need about 2 pounds of venison steaks. And if you're going to use larger pieces, you need 8, 9, 10-ounce pieces per person. So this would be for 4 portions. And it doesn't have to be the most tender. You could use the round steak, but if you feel like it, and you've got a large enough pieces of loin, by all means, you need 4 smoky bacon slices. I would use hickory smoke. 4 dill pickle wedges. I would use a Clausen cold pack. That has a much better flavor for this dish than, say, like a hamburger dill, or the other kind. 1 onion. You want to cut it into thin wedges. 1 apple. Same thing, peeled, decored in thin wedges. So you've got the pickle, the onion, the apple. You need some flour, salt and pepper if you use salt, and fresh grated pepper, some vegetable oil. So what you're going to do, you're going to divide up the steaks into about 8 or more large size pieces. Pound it really thin between plastic wrap. You want to work it gently with a meat mallet or the bottom of a real heavy bottle so you don't break it, maybe like a wine bottle or something. Some of them are quite heavy. And so what you're going to do, after you get it all nice and pounded out, quite thin, in the center of each piece of meat, you want to place a pickle, an apple, an onion wedge, and a bacon strip. You're going to fold and roll this so it's a nice package. It doesn't have to be perfectly round or anything like that, just so that you've got it all wrapped up. And you could take toothpicks or string and tie it off or pick it. And so you want to grate black pepper all over this, and then dredge it in flour and brown it on all sides in a small amount of oil. You want to do this slowly and in batches so you don't burn it, and you're gentle with it. So when you're picking it up, before it has a tendency to form all around this packet of meat on the inside, the vegetables, you want to make sure that you get it all nice and brown. Put that in an oven-proof casserole. Then you want to take the grated onion and the apple and the horseradish. Get that kind of warming up slowly. And then we're going to use some horseradish, shredded apple, 1 to 2 ounces of apple schnapps, and if you have brandy, by all means use it. If not, that's fine. So you take 1 to 1.5 jars of beef gravy, and then after you get the apple and onion that's been shredded, kind of browned off a little bit, add the schnapps, the brandy, and the gravy to it, the beef gravy. Get it all nice and hot. And see if the horseradish, you want to add that little bits at a time so it's not overpowering to your flavor in this sauce. So once you get it to your flavor, pour it over the meat packages, bake it uncovered, 350 degrees for an hour to an hour and a half, or until it looks like it's real tender. And then when you go to serve it, you're going to either unwrap it if you have string, or unpick it with the toothpicks. And You could have some buttered noodles or maybe rice, but I think buttered noodles would go real good. Put them on the plate, lay the packet of meat on top, pour sauce over it. It's a killer dish. We used to sell this a lot before COVID and all of that hit.
Yeah, before the world changed.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy, it's getting bad again.
Oh, it is. But Dave, listen, congrats on that big dough. I'm so happy for you. And that when you were talking about ingredients and you mentioned pickle, I'm thinking pickle. And then I remembered you had made this before and you're talking about all those ingredients. It's a wonderful dish.
Yeah, we use the Clausen coal packs. Look for that wedge. It's a much better than just, say, like the pickles, that come just like for hamburger flavor. It's not what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
The coal pack has a different taste entirely.
Excellent, Dave. Always a pleasure talking with you. And the restaurant's open, Thursday through Sunday?
Yes, yep. In the evenings.
In the evenings. All right, we'll stop by and say hi. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. Dave, congrats on that big dough again. You were able to accomplish something that I just was not. Happy New Year to you. I hope 2022 is a great year for you. It's a great year for me, and it's a great year for all of us in general. Check out the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and you can always reach me via email, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. What else? I think that's going to wrap it up. Again, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.